video, I'm giving you an insight into a one-to-one appointment with me. I work with people all over the world via Zoom. Everything that I do is online. I have no in-person services anymore. Online is just as good as in person, I promise. The appointment that I'm doing today is an example of a discovery call with me. So normally when you're working with me one-to-one, you would buy 3 onboarding appointments: discovery, movement, evaluation. They happen 1 week after the other. And this is an example of a discovery call. I am doing the call with one of the lovely members of my online studio, Amy. She's given me permission for me to use this footage. I have just picked out some of the key bits from our call, and I will be explaining things as we go along as to what happened in each segment. So I hope you enjoy.
Well, thank you so much for sending everything through. If you catch me looking away, I'm not like texting or ignoring you. I'm reading notes that I've made, but I'm also potentially just going to write some notes as well. So if I'm looking away, I always like to reassure people. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to pretend like this is your first appointment of what would be the onboarding process. So normally when someone's a new client with me, they sign up for 3 appointments. They have the discovery, which is what we're doing today, movement the week after, and then evaluation the week after that. And my intention for the discovery call is discovering things, but it's not about giving you like a whole menu of exercises to do. So the Agosti method call it like your posture routine, your menu. You're not going to get like 8 exercises to do. What I will give you by the end of today is 3 exercises that if we were working together and you were having another appointment with me next week, those 3 things either work and make you feel great, and then we would build off what we've learned, or they make you feel worse, which teaches me about where your body is at. So some of the exercise, if I've pitched things too difficult and the person's body isn't able to like cope with the demand that I'm asking them of, they might feel tense and worse. But from my perspective, it's all information. There's no right or wrong. It's just information and kind of decoding that. And then after we finished our call today, you'll get an email from me. So I'll list out like your symptoms. We'll establish a short-term goal, because that's like the most important thing for me. Is it's about trying to capture what it is that motivates people. And I think there are many things that make posture therapy different to other things that you may have tried. But I think the thing that is the most different is that it's a psychological thing. It's about understanding how can you drive somebody to really want to like look after themselves and commit to changing their habits and the things that they do every day. And so I think for me, it's really important that we establish like what it is that your pain at the moment is getting most in the way of, and make that, make a goal kind of based around that.
So after I've had a chat with my client about the symptoms or the conditions of pain that they are suffering from, once we've established a short-term goal that's going to motivate them, and once I've just got to know a little bit more about them, we will then move on to having a look at their posture photos. Perhaps they've sent me a video of them walking. I've put their posture photos in my software, and then I will talk them through the bits and pieces that jump out to me the most in their posture photos. Just gives me an idea of what's going on. Most of the time I can kind of figure out where I want to go, where I'm starting off from, purely just by looking at the posture photos. But the truth comes out more when we get that person moving and figuring out the connections between their posture and what postural deviations are causing what pain in their body. So here is me walking Amy through her posture assessment.
Helpful. Cool. So do you have anything else to ask? But if not, I'll show you your pictures and then we'll get you moving.
Don't think so.
Cool. So let's have a look at your photos. Here we go. So what I have done basically is put you in my software. Oh, why does it do that? Sorry, it's popping up something. Okay. I popped you in my software, and what I do is I put the line, so the line that goes kind of through the center of your body in the front and back view pictures, that's lined up so that it's in the middle of your feet. It's not I'm not putting it in like the middle of your nose or the middle of your belly button. I'm putting it more or less in the middle of your feet, because that shows me how your body is like deviating away from the center of gravity and kind of where it should be. Yours actually really isn't too bad, but for some people, like that all of their body is like over to the right hand side or something like that. So it just helps show differences from right to left. And then in the side view pictures, what we're looking at is I've put the line in the middle of your ankles, and it shows you how your body kind of pitches itself forwards from where it should be. So in an ideal world, we want the ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, and ear all to be in one straight line. And again, yours really isn't too bad at all, but there are some things going on. So I'm going to talk about your front and back view pictures first. And when I do people's posture assessments in the sessions, I will only pick out like the 3 or 4 kind of top things that I want to explore. When you get the email from me, it will be more comprehensive. But I don't like saying it all in the appointment, because it sounds really overwhelming, because there's always like 50 things, because everything in the body is connected. You can't just have a foot off, because the knee's off, the hips off, the pelvis is off, the spine is off. You can't have one thing go wrong without everything going wrong. So rather than listing it all now, what I do is I'll highlight the kind of 3 main things that I see based off like my experience and normally what is going to be troubling people with this type of posture. So number 1, in the front view, is it is very obvious to me that yes, you are indeed like wound up and tight through that kind of right shoulder, right neck area. I can just, from behind, you see how the shoulder is higher. Yeah. And you can, and from the front you can as well. And there's just a whole sense that you're like holding that right arm with like rigidity, and it's like your neck just looks like tight and annoyed as well. So I can definitely see that you have what we call right shoulder elevation, is like the way I would classify that. And then when I draw my eyes down your body, that sounds creepy. When I look down at your body, the first thing that I see when I see an elevated shoulder is, what is the pelvis underneath it doing? Because more often than not, when somebody has an elevated shoulder like yours, it's normally accompanied by an elevated pelvis on that same side. So initially my thought was, okay, well, her right shoulder's off, and I'm going to look down, and then I'm going to see that her right hip is higher than the left one, and therefore her shoulder's like gone in the same direction as it, like the shoulder can't settle because the hip is too high. Actually, for you, your left hip is higher than your right hip. So it's not massive. You do not have like very obviously awful posture. These are small things that they still will make a difference as to how you feel. So your left hip pelvis is higher than that right hand side. You've got that a mild amount of left pelvic elevation going on there. And the left pelvic elevation, in my opinion, is going to be caused, even if I hadn't have seen your function tests, is going to be caused by a lack of grounding and balance and movement through your left leg in some way. It could be your left foot, it could be your left hip, it could be your left like glutes, quads. I don't know yet, but I'm thinking it might be your foot. But what happens is that when the hip and the leg, because our legs should move like this, like a cat flap almost, as one of my clients described it to me, and I think that was quite good. Our legs should be able to move like this, but if the hip can't move very well, what happens is, rather than doing the cat flap movement, we hike the pelvis to help us get the kind of the leg around in an awkward way. I suspect that's what's happening for you. And I think that your left pelvis being high means that what happens is you pump yourself forward with your right arm probably when you walk. So we have this like cross-body relationship where the opposite hip, opposite shoulder are connected because of, when we walk, it's one arm swings forward where the other leg is. I suspect that's what's happened. So it's like something's going wrong here through your left leg and through your left foot. The pelvis is hiking up and your right shoulder is kind of overworking to create momentum that you're not getting through your left leg. I could be completely wrong, but we test it. It's a hypothesis that we test. So in a nutshell, the main things I see in your front to back posture: elevated right shoulder, elevated left pelvis. From the side, the biggest problem that you have is that posterior tilt that we spoke about before, combined with sway back posture. So sway back is basically a posh word for saying that your pelvis is further forward than your ankle. So your ankle is here, pelvis is here, and then your shoulders draw backwards. So you're kind of like a bit of a banana shape. When people have this type of posture, it is literally always as simple as a lack of hip flexor strength. So it may be, well, it will be that there are other things going on as well, that, you know, like glutes and stuff like that, but your pelvis tucking under and the pelvis moving forwards in the way that it does for you tells me that your primary hip flexors don't work. So I've written down a couple of exercises that I want us to try today. As I said, I might be completely wrong, but I'll base, you know, I'll see how you go with stuff and then we'll adapt it if we need to. But we want to, I think, reduce what I think is probably going to be compensate. Oh, sorry, I'm doing this, but that won't mean anything to you. I'm mimicking one of the exercises I'm going to give you, but it won't mean anything to you. We want to reduce compensation in your upper body. So improve that upper body position in a kind of gentle way. Then when we've improved that upper body position, I think we're going to need to switch on your hips the same from side to side and create a little bit of pelvic balance. And then we're going to test your single leg loading as well. I appreciate that all might sound like gobbledygook, but does that make sense in some way? And can you see what it is that I'm talking about?
Yes, yeah, I can.
Cool. I'm blogging on my tape. Okay, cool. In that case, then let's get started. So
the next thing that I do is I get my client just standing up and being normal. So relaxing off tension, not trying to stand with good posture, just standing still, tuning into their body so that we are able to understand how they're feeling at the beginning and then how they feel after each exercise that we're going to do during the appointment. So we need to make sure that we're taking stock of that starting point so that I am and they are aware of exercises that suit them, exercises that don't really do anything for them, and exercises that actively make their symptoms feel worse, which of course is absolutely not what we want. So this is just Amy describing how she feels when she is standing normally.
And then when you do that, I want you to walk me through pain and tension that you feel. So what is talking to you right now in a way that you don't think it should be?
Definitely tension through my right shoulder, a little bit through my left shoulder as well. Anything else? Can't really feel anything else going on. Maybe my neck as well.
Yep.
That always feels quite tense.
And is that on one side more than the other?
More on the right, but kind of both sides as well.
Okay, cool. So it's very much shoulders and neck and nothing else is talking to you right now?
No.
Okay. And then in terms of your weight distribution when you stand like this, do you have that sense like you reported about when you did the function test? Do you feel like you've got more weight through your right foot?
Yeah.
And then what I want you to do is literally just shift that weight to that left-hand side for me.
Yeah.
So like we did in the function test, nice. Pin down through that left big toe joint. So you're really being kind of active with your engagement of your feet. Oh, I don't have my stopwatch. 1 second. It should be around. Oh, here it is. Cool. So pin down through that left foot. I don't want, that's it, nice. That's literally all that we're changing. And tell me when it starts that work that you reported before. Like when does that leg start feeling like it's getting tired?
It's starting to get warm already.
Good. Good. I'm just going to keep you here for a little while because I want to see just what happens like on the other side of that.
So as well as doing the standing assessment with Amy, so just getting her to walk through how her body feels when she is being normal, I also did a couple of function tests with her as well. So just asking her to do a few basic movements and seeing how her body responds to it. Off the back of the results of those function tests, I decided that I thought that Amy needed to remove and reduce compensation from her upper body. So I decided that I think her shoulders and her thoracic spine needed to be open and just put in a slightly different position for a while in order to get her upper body in a better position, which I believed was then going to allow her hips and her feet to switch on a bit more later on. So here is Amy doing an exercise called modified floor block for me. And in this exercise, she is improving her upper body position, but there is also some passive stuff going on through her hips and pelvis as well.
Yeah, other than that, it feels okay.
Okay, cool. So just to confirm what you've just said in the way that will make me happy, is that you're not making your shoulder pain, tension, neck tension feel worse for doing this?
No.
Good. That's like always the first question that I'm wanting people to clarify is this okay for what is their normal symptom of pain or tension? If new things start waking up and stretching and feeling strange, that's normally exactly what we want to happen. So,
and then this is Amy standing up after she had done modified floor block. So I was getting her to do the standing assessment again so that we were able to tune into either positive or negative differences as to how the position made her feel after 5 minutes of being in it. And here is what she had to say.
Shake off that tension for me and just feel like you're being normal. Amy, does anything feel different in terms of how you felt before? So we're tuning into weight distribution and the shoulder and neck sensations mainly.
I do think I might be standing more on my left leg than I was before.
Good.
Don't really feel a massive difference in my shoulders.
Okay, so they still feel tense, but you do feel like the weight's a bit over to the left-hand side.
Yeah.
So the good news is that Amy's weight distribution had shifted a bit, which might not seem like a big deal, but it really is a big deal when it comes to that weight distribution being reflective of every step that you will take in your life. So every time you walk, if your weight distribution is off, you will have problems at some point in the future, or maybe even now. So in this next exercise, the idea from me was to get Amy's pelvis more anterior. So I had identified that I think quite a lot of Amy's problems were possibly stemming from the fact that her pelvis had tucked under posteriorly. She was in a sway back posture. She basically lost control, support, and strength from her hips and pelvis. So this next exercise, flexion abdominals position, is designed to balance her pelvis, strengthen her hips, and take some of the load off her upper body. But I also, within this, gave her a little bit of a thoracic component as well, which you'll see in the video. And yeah, let's see how Amy feels after this one.
I don't know, kind of more of the same. It's starting to feel like warmer around my shoulders.
Cool.
I can feel my glutes kind of switching on a bit now as well. But yes. Yeah, my arms are getting warm now.
Good. It's so this is just adding like an extra thoracic.
So the good news is, after flexion abdominals position, Amy and her shoulder and her neck felt quite different. We weren't really doing anything to her neck. There was no element of neck stretching in this exercise. Really, this was about her feet, her legs, her hips, and her pelvis waking up a bit differently and becoming more functional. And lo and behold, listen to what happened.
So again, taking your time, but just slowly make your way back up to a standing position, and we'll see how you feel. So we're tuning into that shoulder and neck tension again, but also weight distribution through the leg. And I'm going to look at your shoulder and see if anything looks different. How do you feel?
A little bit dizzy.
Yeah, don't be surprised and don't be too alarmed by it. If you've had a big release through your thoracic spine and your neck, your head, it's a good thing. Your head gets moved backwards, but it can be a bit of a shock to the system if there's been a lot of tension holding the neck forwards for a long time. So just let the dizziness kind of, if you need to sit down, that's fine. But how do your shoulders and neck feel?
Yeah, good actually.
Perfect. So they've now loosened up a bit.
They definitely feel like they've kind of reset and they feel like they're sort of back more.
Good. And do you think you've got a bit more mobility when you turn your neck like to the side? Because that was your little test.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Love it. I can see from your shoulders. I don't know if you can see it in the camera. Your right shoulder doesn't look elevated anymore. Your right arm still looks a bit stuck to me, but at the beginning of the appointment, I could just see that the shoulder was lifted. So I was like, we need to figure out what changes that. Okay, I love that. So your body has responded very well to the hip flexor demand, realignment of your feet and stuff like that, but you've also had that thoracic component in that as well. I'm just going to
because Amy responded so well to the flexion abdominals position, which was all about like hip strength, pelvic balance. I decided to finish her discovery appointment because I give three exercises at the end of a discovery appointment. I decided to finish her discovery call with an exercise called double switch no lift. So it's kind of similar in terms of what we're going after as to what happened in flexion abdominals position. But with double switch no lift, there is more of a glute, hamstring, lateral hip component to it as well. And Amy had reported at the beginning of the appointment, because I'd asked her to do my free posture webinar, which I'll also link below so you guys can try it. She had done the free 45-minute posture webinar beforehand, so she'd already tried the function tests for me, and she'd responded, she reported that when she got her glutes waking up, she also felt quite different. So I decided I wanted to make sure I gave her an exercise that got her glutes firing, basically to add more support, control and strength to the hips and pelvic area, so her upper body can just take a much needed break. Her upper body has been overworking on behalf of her legs, hips and pelvis.
Whilst the lower legs or the lower calves move out with the feet staying still. And then you squeeze in both directions, hold, release. Squeeze, hold, release. Keep moving at a nice, steady pace.
We'd established at the beginning of the call that we decided that we maybe thought that Amy's body was possibly avoiding her left foot a bit as well. So she had already decided that she puts more weight through her right leg. She's avoiding her left leg. And she reported back to me that she had an old injury on her left foot. And then to me, that helps me make this picture of what the body might be avoiding. So if the body is avoiding an injury, overloading the right-hand side, it suggests to me that that person probably needs to increase the function of the area that has previously been injured. And it took a little while, but finally, Amy's lower leg on the left-hand side started to kick in, and she got more response from her glutes as well when that happened.
Pelvis. How are things feeling now? I'm going to keep you here for about another 20 seconds.
Yeah, my lower legs are kind of burning now.
Good. And the left one a bit more so, like in comparison to when I asked you it before?
Yeah.
Perfect. Keep breathing. Belly
and then
relax.
This is Amy describing how she feels now after doing 3 exercises, but specifically she's reporting back how she feels having done double switch no lift.
And just talk me through how you feel coming out of that.
Yeah, definitely better through the shoulders again.
Perfect.
Weight distribution feels more even as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah, just kind of, I definitely feel like my upper body has kind of shifted back.
Yeah. And
then when that's all done, so we've had our initial chat where we've spoken about symptoms, established a short-term goal, walked that person through their posture. I've then got them doing their standing assessment, a couple of function tests, and then I lead them through 3 exercises that I've chosen that I think will suit them based off what they've told me and the pictures that they sent through to me. And at the end of the appointment, we have a quick roundup of what we've learned, what we've discovered. I make sure that my client hasn't got any questions, and then I follow up with an email with all of the information that they need to carry on their homework on a daily basis until the next time that we speak, the week after, for the movement call. I hope you've enjoyed this insight and glimpse into a one-to-one appointment with me. I'm not always taking clients on one-to-one just because my diary gets really busy. There's only one of me and my capacity is quite limited. However, The experience that you get in a one-to-one appointment can be mimicked through other products and services that I have. So please do have a look at my website and the other ways in which you could work with me. It isn't just about one-to-one. Most people really don't need one-to-one therapy. Most people will benefit from other sort of more generalized programs and courses and things like that. So I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in some capacity in the future.